Hi, I'm Kenny Rice, and thanks for tuning in to this as we get ready for episode 7 of the Horse Racing Show. We taped this show in advance of Santa Anita making the announcement that they have canceled racing and training indefinitely as they continue to evaluate the safety of its main track. This happened after another horse, sadly, the 21st in 10 weeks, had to be humanely destroyed because of an injury related to the track. What's even compounding the frustration of all this is that no one has a definitive answer as exactly what's going on. They've had experts out there looking at the track, people that know about soil samples, people that know about how a track is supposed to function. There's speculation, of course, because they've had an inordinate amount of rain in Southern California this time of year, around 11 inches or so. Possibly that would have something to do with it. That would make sense. What it is doing right now is compounding everything on the road to the Kentucky Derby because the two top horses, the consensus at least of everyone, the two top horses, Game Winner and Improbable, both trained by Bob Baffert, were supposed to run this weekend in the San Felipe at Santa Anita. That race has been postponed. As you know, time is precious and scheduling is of essence as you get ready for the Kentucky Derby, now less than 2 months away. What he'll do then, we don't know. If the horses will stay in Southern California, try to find another area out there to run in, maybe go to Arkansas or go to New York or to Florida. That's to be determined. But it's a situation that basically is unprecedented. I cannot remember anything like this. So that's the situation at Santa Anita. Some of the things you may hear in the show were taped again before we found out that Santa Anita had closed racing and training for the rest of this week. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. We're glad that you're with us. We had talked earlier about the importance of having sponsorship in any sport right now, from Major League Baseball through the NFL, and horse racing late to the game, but in the last decade, things have changed. One of the guys that have helped change everything is Jeff Ruby, the entrepreneur. You've probably eaten at one of his steakhouses if you pass through the Ohio Valley area. And Jeff joins us now, appropriately enough, since coming up this weekend at Turfway Park will be the Jeff Ruby Stakes. That's Stakes, Stakes. Not, was it Stekes, Jeff Ruby?
It's spelt like the cut of beef.
Oh, you know what? That's perfect. You're the marketing master. It should be that way. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
That's the way it is. And yeah, that's the name. It's Stekes. Yes.
Now, how did you get involved in your horse racing? Because I've seen you around the track. You've been involved in the sport for a long time. You've been a supporter of the sport. How did this come about?
Wow, geez, when I came to Cincinnati, I was an assistant manager at Holiday Inn in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, and a trainer would come in the bar all the time, and we became friends. A horse trainer, and he claimed some horse. I claimed some horses, cheap horses, through him, and then that was back in the '70s, and then I bought a couple of horses with Chris Collinsworth and Turk Schonert, who just passed away, the quarterback for the Bengals, and we used to run around together, and we claimed some horses there, and then bought a horse and all that kind of stuff. But I started with the name with our brand on the jockey pants. Mike Smith wanted to, and some of the other jockeys they wanted to wear my pants, the jockey pants. That I didn't have jockey pants, so they wanted put our brand on there, Jeff Ruby Stakes. I said, well, I can't afford that. Actually, it began in the jockey room right before the Derby, when Dodge Ram Trucks was sponsoring the Derby, and all the jockeys had those Ram logos, Ram Trucks.
I remember.
I said, well, I'm not big. I can't afford something like that. I don't know if they were paying, but I certainly, and they said, we don't want any money. We do it just because we love your restaurant. That's how the whole thing started.
Is that right? Yeah, because I know there was reluctance for some of the Jockey Guild and even horse racing. They didn't want anything on any of the jockeys' pants at one time, did they?
At Churchill Downs, it wasn't allowed. It was not allowed. Now, the reason it was on the Derby is because Ram Trucks was sponsoring the Derby.
Yeah.
They were paying them, a lot of money to be, one of the sponsors. And Yum Brands has sponsored the Derby and others. And but they didn't allow it. But the new CEO and the new president, you know, I met with them at my restaurant actually to talk because they had an issue with jockeys, you know, so anyway, what I was doing was I said, listen, I'm giving the money. The jockeys don't even want to be paid, so I'm donating the money for them wearing it to the permanently disabled jockey fund. And, you know, when those jockeys are personally disabled, they don't get anything either.
Right.
You know, it's not like a major league sport jockeys. They don't really have the union. They don't have protection. They don't make the money. They don't get the recognition and blah, blah, blah. But we went down to Del Mar for the opening day and I presented a check for $35,000 to the, you know, permanently disabled jockey fund. So I was doing that for a while. And Mike, he came up with it on a cocktail napkin in one of my restaurants, whatever, talking about it, writing something down. And then Garrett Gomez was one too. And then, and of course he passed away, and Joe Talamo, then Darrell Hare, who's a former jockey and involved with the Jockey Guild. He was, you know, one of the leading guys in the Jockey Guild.
Yeah.
Great guy. Knows all, you know, Mike and them. So he handled getting all this done. And we were going to try to get in time for the Preakness that year when it was already too late for the Derby. And, but it took time and everything else. And eventually we started doing it. And Javier Castellano's ridden with my pants a lot. So is Johnny V. And I'm friends with both of them and quite a few other guys. But Mike and Joe are my everyday guys. And there was a jockey at Golden Gate. I'm watching TVG the other day, and there's a jockey I don't even know, never heard of, got my pants on.
You're saying Jeff Ruby Stakes, and you don't even know the guy.
I don't know how he got the pants. I text Darrell. I said, "Do you want me to have him stop?" I said, "No. I mean, you know, it's out in wine country. That's good advertising for us at Golden Gate." And then he won the race the next day, and I forget his name, but. So I don't know how he got the pants or why he was doing it, but I'm not complaining. It was, you know, free advertising. And Sunday I looked and he didn't have them on Sunday. So I don't know if they got dirty or whatever, but you know, but there's a lot of jockeys that, you know, in the Belmont 3 years ago, I had already had the winner with Always Dreaming with Johnny V, the Derby. And then I had Cloud Computing with Javier Castellano in the Preakness, and now in the Belmont, I had all 9 horses. So I won the Triple Crown before the race. Whenever I felt like Tom Brady before the Super Bowl, where I already knew I'm going to win. So we won that race. It didn't matter who won. It was Taplets or something, that horse.
Yeah, that's right, Taprit. Yeah,
Taprit. And then the paper came out, and they showed the first 4 finishers, and all 4 of them have got my brand all over the place. And that's happened before, actually. So we were the first sponsor ever to win a Triple Crown. We were the first sponsor ever to win an Oaks and Derby in the same year. And I think Mike won the Oaks that year, and Johnny V won the Derby. And so it's been a lot of fun, and it's good relationships. The jockeys are great guys. Drayden Van Dyke. There's so many of them. They're great guys. The Ortiz brothers and all those guys they're good guys.
And you know, for guys that aren't really, let's say, you know, real big, they like a good steak. I mean, I've been to your place. I've seen them at your steakhouse.
Oh, they eat.
Yeah, some of them can eat pretty well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They eat. Yeah.
I would say, Jeff, that you probably have. There's probably more of the jockey pants. I haven't done a count of this, but just in all the major races I cover, I see Jeff Ruby Stakes on the side of more jockey pants than any other brand out there. I'd say you probably almost have cornered the market, is my guess.
Not really, but there's some huge companies that do it that have a lot more money than me, and pay a lot more money than I can pay. But we got Mike. And we had Justify, and we had won the Breeders' Cup Classic. Arrogant, we had him.
Yeah.
With him, with City of Light, I think the other day with Javier we won. So we're on Hall of Fame jockeys. And Joe, who's a great young rider,
yeah,
he wanted to be with me, and Harold told me about him. He wanted to be associated with me when he was 19. So we got hooked up with him, and he's a great ambassador for us. And they're good guys. And the trainers, Bob Baffert and Doug O'Neill and Kelly Breen, they're friends of mine, and some others, and Chad Brown, and but so it's good. It's good.
We're talking with Jeff Ruby, entrepreneur, great, a guy that knows how to fix a steak for sure. If you've eaten at one of his great restaurants, and has been a big supporter of horse racing. We're talking about the money he's given to the Disabled Jockeys Fund. You see the jockeys wearing Jeff Ruby Steaks, and now the Jeff Ruby Steaks, that's STEAKS, coming up at Turfway this week, which is basically around your home turf. So I guess it was a natural for you to sponsor this?
Well, yeah, Chip Bach. In fact, we just got off the air with WLW Radio and Bill Cunningham show just 2 minutes before we got on the air here. They came to me. It used to be the Jim Beam Stakes.
Right, I remember those days. Yeah,
it was the Spiral Stakes. It was the Jim Beam Spiral Stakes. It was Lane's End had it for a while, and they came to me last year about doing it, or 2 years ago, and for the first time. So the first time was last year. We got another 2 years. We got this one, and then we got next year. We'll probably renew it, I guess. So it brings up, in Greater Cincinnati, this is the biggest event that really happens. It's the Derby part. It's like the tent and the whole thing. They had the biggest sellout last year for the tent. We did our food. And so we have our whole culinary team down there. This year, they've added 500 seats to the tent. They expanded the tent 100 feet longer. So and it's close to being sold. The VIB tent is close to being sold out. I think there's 2 tables left. There'll be 2,000 people in there, and everybody gets a lot of free stuff and all that. And then in the general admission, they're not charging admission because there's construction going on at the track, and they felt it was kind of an inconvenience, so they didn't charge admission. Plus, the first 750 people get a Jeff Ruby Stakes purple baseball cap, and it's a good event. And all the doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs show up there long before I was involved. It's dignitaries and all these big shots and celebrities come to it. It was a thing I went to quite a few times.
Yeah, I went to the Jim Beam Stakes when it was still at Latonia, Jeff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember. I actually did one of the first national broadcasts. It was Mike Battaglia, Tony Chamblin, and I. We did the Jim Beam Stakes. I believe it was like 83, 4, and 5. I remember At the Threshold won it one year. And I remember Stan Musial came in one year, and Al Hurt. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. I've known Mike as one of the first friends I made in Cincinnati back in 1970. And so at Latonia, at all these events, all these different parties and stuff, I started doing Freddie Capicella. Remember him?
Yeah, yeah.
He was the voice of horse racing.
Legendary caller, yeah.
So, and I grew up listening to him. So I said, let me call a race one day. And I called the race at Latonia live. Thank you, win and welcome. And the horses are now entering the starting gate, and that could mean one thing. It is now post time. You're off. And I did the whole thing. Got it 2 lengths, the whole thing.
It's great.
And but trying to find the horse, trying to make sure I got the right horses and all of that stuff, and that's a whole nother talent that I don't have. But I used to do it years and years ago. It's Jiper, and here comes Dr. Fager, now gets the lead, and Damascus third, and carry back, and I did all those horses.
Oh, yeah. I
did all those horses. And I remember I played football in high school, and everybody, so you had your own practice jerseys back then. So I just had a white sweatshirt, not jersey, it was a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And my hero as a 15-year-old freshman was Kelso, the horse. So with Magic Marker, I wrote Kelso on the back of my practice jersey at Neptune High School in New Jersey for football. Kelso. People say, who the hell's Kelso? I said, well, he's the greatest horse who won the most money, and he was my favorite horse. He was my hero. My hero was a horse. My sports hero was a freaking horse. And then I fell in love with Dr. Fager, with his speed and everything. Yeah. And then they bring in a rabbit to run with him so that it would run him to the ground so that some other horse could win. So somebody would enter a horse called Hedavar, some horse that could run fast for 3 furlongs. But they had another horse in the race that they wanted to win. But to beat Dr. Fager, you had to get a rabbit to run against him. Otherwise, he'd set a slow pace. I remember all those horses, you know.
This is just a natural thing for you then to keep your horse racing. Yeah.
I got Louisville, and we're doing it in Lexington. We opened in Lexington in April. And I don't know if you saw, but I've got these fantasy decade horse race charts up on the wall there. And I went through every turf history book, and I took, like, let's say the years, the 60s, Dr. Fager and Damascus and Buck Passer. And even before that, when I don't remember, but I certainly looked it up and researched it all with Bold Ruler and, all those horses. But the 60s, so then I would put who would be the jockey, and if they all ran against each other, what would be the odds? And then I picked a track that they were at, and this was the whole 40 feet long of these things along the ceiling, and we're doing it in Lexington too. So, and then we got, later on the 80s and the 90s and whatever. So we got some, Seattle Slew, we got the Secretariat thing. And then I would talk to Mike. I said, Mike, here's my odds. What do you think? This horse would be favored over that one or whatever, I mean, we had Seabiscuit up there from the previous, history.
Yeah.
So you got Seabiscuit running against, I don't know, whoever, but we had all, and then who would the jockey be? Then I had a problem though. There were some jockeys that rode both horses, so I had to find out what other jockey ever rode the other horse because he can't be on both horses. And Manny Caza and Johnny Jorge Velasquez,
yeah.
all back to those days, and the horse that rode Kelso and Carryback and those Caza, Manuel, all these guys. I had all of them because I remember them all.
Wow. So this is a natural. You're just continuing your passion from when you were that football playing kid in Jersey wearing Kelso on your back.
Yeah, and I actually worked at Monmouth Park one summer when I was going to college. But in the summer, I worked at Monmouth Park for HMS. I did all the catering there back then. And I worked one summer there. I would play hooky and go to I booked the 63 Derby. I was 63. I'm 15 years old. And I booked it. So these kids wanted to bet on the Derby. And they didn't know what this is Jersey. So it's not like they all, this is the Jersey Shore. I said, listen, there's a thing called the Kentucky Derby going to be Saturday. Okay. Pick a horse. You give me $2. And if that horse wins, whatever it pays, you get that money. So everyone, and I think Never Ben was in the race and and there were some good horses. And a horse called Chateauguay wins.
Yes.
Chateauguay was a long shot. I think it was 15-1 or something.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if somebody would have won, if somebody would have had Chateauguay, I would have had to break into someone's car and steal a radio player or something. I don't know how I was going to get the money if Chateauguay won. Okay, and if somebody bet on Chateauguay, so Chateauguay won. Nobody had it, and I kept all the money because everyone. I was the bank. I was the house. And everyone bet on favorites and other horses or names they like. And I figured, if one person wins, the other people are all going to lose. No, not anybody's going to. There's not going to be a lot of people winning the race. So I'll come out ahead. I'll come out. If one person wins, I've got enough money to pay that horse, that kid, and make a profit. And I'm 15 years old. But nobody won but me. Because I Chateauguay won, so I didn't have to pay anybody nothing. That's how it started, and I would play hooky and go to the track. And I worked at the track one summer, and then I worked at a restaurant as a dishwasher, fancy restaurant right across the street from Monmouth Park in Oceanport. And so I've been around, I've been around a lot of horses, and I just always thought that I love the sport.
Oh, Jeff, this is great stuff. Let me ask you, best steak to order. What would be
bone and ribeye?
Bone it. Okay, I want to know what steak you would order, so that would be it. No hesitation.
Yeah, bone and ribeye, but
the Kelso of steaks.
Kelso of steaks. Yeah, and I don't know. It was just there was another story. I forget what it was. I interrupted myself by talking about taking the bets on the Derby. But working over there at Monmouth Park was fun, and that was it. I got to know the bugle player at Monmouth Park. He'd come out there. He played in a lounge as a musician, and I'm just a kid. I'm a teenager, but he's the bugle player, so I'd go to the lounge, and I remember he came up with a song. He did a song, and I think he made it up. He said, "This is from the movie Run From Your Wife." So I looked up Run From Your Wife as a movie. You never heard of that. I don't think that movie ever existed. I think it was a joke.
Yeah.
But he did the song. But it's a hell of a movie, I mean, everybody, it's a reality show, actually. So Run From Your Wife. How many times? I mean, I come out and then I don't have to run. She's got the clothes on the front yard. But so Run From Your. But this is the trumpet player at Monmouth Park, and I'm 16 years old or whatever I was, and Frankie or whatever his name was, got to know him.
Oh man, I got to get, when you come down and open your restaurant, we're located in the Lexington area. You got to come into the studio. Well, this is great stuff that you have.
Well, thank you, Win. Now back to Win Elliott. Remember that? Now back to Win Elliott.
Yeah, all the news you get in 24-hour cycles, right? That was like the first one. Was it WINS? Is that it? Something like that.
No, Win Elliott.
Yeah, I remember Win Elliott, and I was trying to think of the radio station. I remember Win Elliott.
The radio station.
Yeah.
I just listened to it on TV.
Yeah.
He did Hialeah. He did Miami.
Oh yeah.
And then he did New York.
Yeah, legendary. Yeah.
And a guy named Morris Toby did Monmouth Park.
Now that name I'm familiar with, but I don't know. But Win Elliott,
Morris
I remember
Tobin
well.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I never met either one of them, but Morris, Win did New Jersey.
Yeah.
Win did New York and Miami. And Florida.
Wow.
So he did Belmont and Aqueduct, and Hialeah probably, Calder probably, Gulfstream probably. He did but that voice was unbelievable. Got the 2 lengths, and it's Buck Passer.
And you nailed it. I mean, that was him. Yeah. If anybody didn't hear him, that was him. What Jeff just said, that was him.
So I used to do that at people's events in Cincinnati all the time. Johnny Bench would have parties going to do Freddie Capicella, Jeff. So I do Freddie Capicella, and I would make up these horse races that people loved it.
Yeah. Jeff, man, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for your time. I know you're always busy and opening restaurants, in this case, sponsoring the Jeff Ruby Steaks this weekend at Turfway. And I will see you at the track, if not at the restaurant beforehand.
There's going to be a lot of design detail that reflective of horse racing industry in this restaurant in Lexington. You will not miss it. Trust me. There's a lot of horse racing there.
Oh yeah,
a lot of horse racing in that. One room's called the Breeders' Table, one private room. But there's a lot of stuff there that's going to make you feel comfortable that people know they're in Lexington.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you there, if not sooner. I really appreciate your time, Jeff.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Ruby, a great supporter of racing, has the Jeff Ruby Stakes this coming weekend, March 9th at Turfway Park in Florence, Kentucky. We'll be back with more of the Horse Racing Show right after this.